Alon Graham shares the love of Jesus with Joe Rogan, and his mind gets blown away because he talks about the difference between an intellectual knowing of Jesus compared to a relationship with Jesus. So let's get right into the video. Make sure to watch till the end so you know how to respond to these questions. Let's get into it.
And it was through that and a series of things that led to the founding and then ultimately the founding of the community.
So it was essentially this one retreat. You get this vision of just wanting to do something, and this is why did you concentrate on homeless people? Like, what was it about that?
You know, out of the retreat, the idea was fundamentally to, what can I do at church? You know, I can become a lector. My wife can go do the nursery. You know, we get our kids involved in the thing. The intellectual relationship that I had with Jesus, because there was an intellectual side to this, during that retreat just kind of dropped a floor into the depths of the cave of my heart. And so there was a different relationship that I was experiencing with
What do you
Christ.
mean by that? Like, you had an intellectual relationship and then you had a different relationship?
Well, look, there are elements of the Christian faith that would, first begin with, that the angel of the Lord came to a poor Jewish 14-year-old little girl and impregnated her with the power of the Holy Spirit. That's a weird thought that you got to buy into. From that, the Son of God is going to be born, a virgin birth. He's going to be on this earth for a period of time, and then he's going to end up being executed, and he's going to rise from the dead, descend into hell, then ascend into heaven. But prior to that, he hangs out for another 40 days with his brothers. These are incredulous things to believe.
Right.
And so at some point in time, you have to end up in this intellectual space where you're just kind of going, okay, I'm going to believe that my faith.
That's crazy how he just shared like the literal, pretty much the gospel. Like, you missed a few parts, like we're all sinners and everything. That's why Jesus needed to come. But like, that's like what Jesus did. And he just shared that to Joe Rogan. That's awesome. And now he's going to get into like, yeah, you have to actually like believe the intellectual or like the things, the crazy things that you need to do is you need to believe in. But then there's a relationship aspect, I think, that really makes everything so real to you. And he's going to get into here.
When my wife, prior to 1996, started taking our children back to Mass on Sunday, and I wasn't part of that, I began to look at that as the train was leaving the station. And my father had left us when I was young and divorced my mentally ill mother and left me and my three brothers, almost stuck with a mentally ill, beautiful mom, but struggling mom. And I began to look at Tricia, who we will celebrate 40 years this year. Kind of gets me emotional thinking about it, as taking our children and leaving the house, the train leaving the station, and I'm sitting back fixing to get ready to go into the office to do some work on a Sunday because, we're both kind of serial workaholic types. And I decided to jump back on that train and begin to really explore my Catholic faith. And through that process, I just got enamored with the church. And when I talk about the church, I'm talking about the whole thing, the Roman Catholic Church, the Eastern Church, the Protestant Church, the schisms, the heresy, the wars, the reformations. And I got enamored with maybe one of the greatest novels ever written in mankind. What a train wreck this whole deal is. Yet at the center of that deal remains this Jesus of Nazareth. And
obviously Christianity has so many different schisms, so many different denominations, but there's one thing that's the center of it all, and that's Jesus.
So that was very intellectual for me, and I was buying into it. My faith was buying into it. I was believing in it. I wanted to believe into it, but I had no factual things to take me there. This retreat took that intellectual stuff and dropped it afloor right into the depths of my heart, and that's where the change really began to occur. It became more of a heart relationship with Christ as opposed to a intellectual thing.
So when you talk about these specific concepts that are hard for people to wrap their heads around, like the resurrection and like the virgin birth, all these things, like what do you do with that in your mind when you say you have an intellectual relationship with it? When you come across something that seems impossible, how do you manage that in your mind? Like, how do you approach it?
Well, look, I think there are just some things in the world that you just have to be willing to accept. The immensity of the unknown, basically, and you and I live in a universe of the unknown. Mm-hmm. We would all agree, and I think science would agree, that there are things that we know, but it's probably extraordinarily limited. Obviously, much more than we knew 500 or 600 years ago.
Right.
But today, we're not even. I was talking to somebody today about transistors. And if you go back to the Apollo days, and your little radio that you could dial in, you could open it up and you could see the little transistors that are in there. Well, now we're putting a million of them on the very edge of the size of a fingernail, and you and I can't comprehend that, but I believe it, but I can't see it. And I know people do see that. So you and I live in a world basically where we're having to accept things for the most part that we can't.
Well, sort of. The transistor thing, like, first of all, we have schematics. We understand how they work.
Sure.
You can look at them with microscopes. You understand the process of putting them on these chips. It's like, it's very scalable. And it's also, there's a real paper trail of when they were do you know the whole story of how transistors first appeared? It's very fascinating. It's one of the most, you want to talk about mysterious things. One of the more interesting things about the UFO folklore is that they believe that we have back-engineered some of our advances from crashed crafts. And the transistor is one of them that sort of comes out of nowhere. Another one is fiber optics. They all sort of seem to come out sometime around 1947 after the Roswell crash.
Yeah, well, and
just for a little kooky piece of trivia.
Yeah, but I haven't ever seen a UFO. So, and I'm going to believe. I'm going to, maybe. Maybe that's the...
Do you believe in that? Do you believe that, like, God has created other life forms in other places?
I believe it's completely possible. And, I'm cut out of the doubting Thomas. If you're familiar with the Apostle Thomas, I'm cut out of that cloth.
This is what I believe about Joe Rogan. He's going to have to experience the love of Jesus, something like he's never experienced before, for him to come to know God. Because, like, he's heard all of these intellectual reasons, and obviously, like, that one probably wasn't the best reason ever. Like, we don't know how someone could get pregnant. The thing I'm trying to get at is, like, Joe Rogan's going to have to experience the love of Jesus, where, like, he just can't comprehend or understand what happened to him, and he's going to have to be searching, and the only possible solution to this problem that he's feeling is Jesus. And that's what I believe is going to have to happen to him. And it's happened to so many different people, and he could experience evil things that are happening in the world. I know he's really into shrooms and stuff like that, and he could experience some crazy trip there, maybe of even evil things where he knows he just has to go to God. Anyway, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear your comments. I encourage you guys to go to Jesus and seek him and experience a relationship with him, just like this man has actual relationship within his heart. I encourage you guys to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't, and have an amazing day. Also, you might like this video here. Peace.